Hello, Jordan Burris here. Would you like to hear an original song? Many years ago, a few songwriter friends and myself were given the opportunity to visit the legendary Woodstock, New York area home known as Big Pink. Nicknamed for its bright exterior color, Big Pink was famously home to members of Bob Dylan's backing band, the Hawks, better known now as The Band, in the late 1960s. Following a 1966 motorcycle accident, Bob Dylan would retreat from the public eye and spend time at Big Pink, writing new music and recording the songs with the band in the home's basement. In a simple twist of fate, my friend and fellow songwriter Chet O'Keefe was acquainted with the current owners of the famous home, and we were invited to travel to New York, stay at Big Pink, and record our songs in the basement where Bob Dylan and the band had recorded years earlier. 6 songwriter friends and myself took the 15-hour car ride from Nashville, Tennessee to West Saugerties, New York, equipped with a smattering of guitars and instruments and a couple dozen songs. We drove through the night and arrived at Big Pink in the mid-afternoon and were greeted by the home's owner, Don. Don was generous with his knowledge of the home and gave us a brief tour, complete with stories about Bob Dylan and the band. In the living room of the home was a picture window, and it caught my attention. It overlooked the front yard of the property, which was full of wild, tall grass and apple trees. Don noticed me examining the window and offered me this anecdote. Don told me that in the 1960s, Bob Dylan would arrive early at Big Pink while the band was still asleep, sit in front of this picture window with his coffee, and write songs. When the band woke up in the early afternoon, they, along with Dylan, would head to the basement of the home to work on the songs he had written throughout the morning. Don concluded the tour, and we spent the last bit of the evening grilling hamburgers, drinking beer, and sitting around a small campfire in the backyard. In the morning, I took my cup of coffee and sat in front of the picture window as Bob Dylan used to. I opened my composition notebook and began to take note of my surroundings, hoping for inspiration. My friends were coming and going throughout the house, upstairs and downstairs, indoors and outdoors, most enjoying a cup of the overtly strong coffee from the kitchen, although some enjoying a cold beer from the cooler left over from the night before. The morning was chaotic, and I sat still in the middle of it. As I looked out on the apple trees placed on rolling hills, I felt assured that I was looking upon God's country, a phrase usually used to describe the American South, such as my home in Tennessee. Using the phrase God's country as a descriptor of my northern surroundings seemed misplaced, and in a sudden, an alternative was made available. I wrote down the phrase Canaan's country in the stead of God's country, Canaan a biblical reference to the Promised Land. I began to place the characters, actions, and surroundings of the mornings into a structure similar to Bob Dylan's talking blues compositions. It was melodically free-formed but strictly rhythmic, aggressive and angsty, which reflected my mood and also served as a contrast to the serene gardens I found myself in. I ran the narrative to a suitable stopping point, closed my composition book, and joined the rest of the group in the basement to begin the day's recordings. Over the next few days, we would record the songs we had prepared and felt good about our work. On the final night of our stay, Chet, Don, and myself remained in the basement to listen to playbacks of the recordings. It was in this moment that I felt compelled to share with them the song that I had written earlier in our stay. As I was performing the song, Chet instinctually picked up a bass guitar and found an appropriate groove. We both smiled. Don asked if I had written the song while at Big Pink. I told him that I'd written the song in front of the picture window as an homage to Bob Dylan and his early morning writing ritual. Don thought that was great and encouraged Chet and I to record the song, if for nothing else, posterity's sake. Canaan's Country Blues, as it became known, was recorded as impetuously as it was written, and was the final recording of our trip. With the recordings complete, we all took turns signing our names to the wall in the basement, which is customary of musical guests of the house. The night ended and the morning came quickly. Our return trip to Tennessee seemed to take 10 times as long as the trip to New York. I was glad to have gone, but happy to be home. I have not returned to the state of New York since that trip. Big Pink is still there, and as far as I can tell from recent pictures, it looks largely unchanged and untouched. I would like to pay a return visit to that picture window. I would like to see my name scribbled on the wall. And I hope you'll enjoy this original song, which comes to you by way of West Saugerties, New York. This is entitled Canaan's Country Blues.
There's people going up the stairs, there's people going down. Some are going out the back, some headed down to town. Some are drinking water, some are drinking wine. Some are feeling heavy, some are feeling fine. Some are wearing sandals and some are wearing shoes. Me, I'm in the parlor with these Canaan country blues. Well, the weeds are growing wilder and the pine trees growing slow. Smoke is growing higher as the fires are growing low. Eggs all in the kitchen and the coffee in the stove. Fruits are in a basket and the bread's all in a loaf. The heat is in any spot that the morning sun does choose, while I'm sitting in the parlor with these Canaan country blues. There's mills on the water and there's towers on the hill. There's fog upon the valley and there's steel upon the steel. Hands on the table, shirts upon the chest, fingers on the good ones and the crows are on the rest. Using the orchard as an unassuming muse, while I'm sitting in the parlor with the Canaan country blues. Upon the sheep, flies upon the toad, wax on the counter, all the comments on the wall. You know my home is down in Tennessee, St. Peter's in the hall. With all the work I missed, you know I suppose that I was due to just be sitting in the parlor with the Canaan country blues. In the parlor with these Canaan country blues.